Here we go. So welcome everybody to our weekly webinar, and we're in week 7, which is really exciting, and can't believe we're in week 7 already. It feels like we should be back in week 3 somewhere, but here we are in week 7, and I'm really excited because we've got Lucy Smith with us tonight, and Lucy's going to chat to us about probably something that always inspires us, because I've heard Lucy speak a couple of times at Soul Sisters and always take great nuggets of her wisdom, her experience, and her genuineness to share her journey with all of us at Soul Sisters. But I had a really, one of her probably most profound messages that I got was last year, and it wasn't even directly from Lucy, is Maina saw Lucy speak the night before the Victoria Marathon in October, and I was running the half marathon. Maina went to see Lucy speak, and her and I just happened to be connecting the night before. And I'm just like feeling a bit anxious about this half marathon that I did. And I shared sort of my demons and my fears that were going on about that one, but in another webinar. And what Lucy had said to everybody that night at the carb loading, I think it was the carb loading meal that you had spoken at, was it's not necessarily about going out and getting your best time, but it's going out and having the best time. And I got to run with my friend Julie, who I think is on tonight, which is exciting. And that is exactly what we did, is we had the best time. And it was such a great way for me to shift some bad experiences from previous half marathons. And we just did. And it definitely wasn't a PBR for me at all, but it was the best time. And so I really thank you, Lucy, for for those words of wisdom that you passed on to me and really got me through that half marathon. And yeah, so I'm gonna pass it off to you, because I know you've got lots of great things to chat about, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end.
Okay, thanks, Tracy. Yeah, thanks everybody. I'm happy to be here in this capacity. As I was telling Tracy, it's different for me to be talking to my computer as opposed to talking to a room full of people who are responding to me. So bear with me, and I have to wear my fast reading glasses because I've made a couple of notes to make sure that I cover a few of the things that I thought would be maybe helpful for me to share. I'll tell you a small story here from the very recent past, and that is that I personally have been very injured. I'm only just becoming not injured in the last month, since last April. So the last real race I ran was the Times Colonist 10K in April of 2016, right around the time I turned 49. And shortly after that, I developed a really, really bad hamstring injury, something I've never ever had. And it was one of those injuries that presented itself very mysteriously, would not go away, I couldn't diagnose it at first, not for a very long time. And then when I finally figured it out, I realized that it was going to be a 6-month injury. Like the people that I worked with have seen this injury before. And suddenly I was faced with 6 months of not training. And for those of you who know me, whether I was racing competitively or not, running is something that has been in my life since I was about 11 or 12. And it's been a very strong part of my adult life. And like most people, when my professional career was over and I was raising my 2 children, who are now 11 and 15, running became more about mental health and something I did for my own identity than it was really about competing or even winning or getting to the top of the Masters podium anymore. It was really that every day going for a run made me feel better, and I really like being fit. It's a huge part of my life. So for the last year, pretty much, I have not been able to train, and I've not been able to run very much. And I thought I would just touch a little bit on that because of so many times in my coaching career, and even just walking through my regular life, I run into people who either are injured or have been injured, and I don't want to spend the whole time on that. But there are a couple of things that that really have come up for me that I really want to share with people, and it touches on what Tracy just said about feeling anxious about racing, and realizing that she didn't have to only focus on outcome, but could focus on actually the process. And one of the things that happens when people get injured is that something they love is taken away from them. Let's say their training, the goal setting, the scheduling of having this thing to look forward to every 2 days or every day, and this race maybe every month or every 2 months. And suddenly, when that is taken away from you, and something that you love, and one of the common things that people do is they then decide that if that is taken away, then they probably don't deserve to be happy either, or they don't deserve to, like, if that is taken away, it sort of puts them into this sort of funk of, well, how can life be good if this is taken away from me? And one of the things that's always been interesting to me is that whether you're injured or not, you can still be a runner. You're just a runner that's injured, or you're a runner that's injured and trying to get better. And the funny part of my story is that in halfway through the summer, we got a puppy. And I haven't had a puppy since I was a kid. And this puppy, I got the puppy because we talked about it, and my family wanted it for so long. But I didn't realize what the puppy, and you can hear him in the background perhaps. Sorry, I have to go for 1 second. I'm so sorry. Sorry about that. And I'm back. That's the puppy barking. Anyway, obviously I didn't realize that getting a puppy would be such an addition to my life. But I had something else to focus on, is basically what I'm saying. And for me, it was focusing on walking. I could actually walk, so that was great. So I got to do lots and lots of walks with this new dog. But not everybody's going to get a puppy when they're injured. But I think my main point is that even when you can't run, there are other things that not that there's other things that you can do, but even when you can't run, it's very important that you continue to stay focused on what you can do, and that you still deserve happiness, or you still deserve to feel joy in your life, even if this one thing is missing. And maybe I'm not explaining it very well, but I really believe that it's the feeling that just because you can't run makes you not a runner, whereas when you can't run, you're still a runner. You have to just focus on the rehabilitation of the running, and also just on a more practical level, as most of you know, I'm not 25 anymore. I'm not still in the midst of my high performance career. I'm actually going to be 50 this year. And as you get older, and it's not just me, I'm not just a study of one, because I've coached a lot of people, a lot of women, especially as they move through their 40s. There is a new respect for your body that has to happen, and the respect comes around your body needs more recovery. So after hard workouts, you have to make sure that you're recovering for at least a day, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 days before the next time you go and either train or train hard. As far as this injury goes, for me, what was really different about it was just the length of time that it took my body to heal, and the amount of very focused rehab I had to do, whereas I don't think when I was younger that I would have taken as long to heal. So not only did I have to work on my emotional mindset, I had to work on my patience and just my ability to say, I will heal. It's going to take a little bit longer, and every week is one step back towards my physical health so that I can go and train again and go into races again. But the understanding that as you go through your 40s, and I know not everybody in Mayna's group is in their 40s and 50s, but I am going to talk to those people right now, and that is that your body does go through a lot of changes between sleep and recovery and just the ups and downs. Everything's just a little bit different. And what I really believe is that people have to just be patient, and you have to be patient, and then know that just by showing up and going to workouts, you're there. And it's the same thing what Tracy was saying about getting anxious about the race. There is the anxiety about racing or showing up at workouts, but then there's also just the get yourself there. And if you're going to show up and do it, and I've talked about this many times in Mayna's clinics, that if you're going to show up, then show up fully and be there fully present while you're training or while you're at the race. One other thing I thought I could talk a little bit about today is what I do now and why it's changed from really when I think the first time I ever talked at Mayna's group, I was pregnant with Ross. So it was pretty much 12 years ago, because Ross is almost 12. And when I was pregnant, but I was going to come back, and I was going to continue to compete for another couple of years competitively and professionally after he was born. And my whole identity was very much formed around being a runner. Like, that was who I was. I was a runner. And in this, and I had managed to sort of let that identity become, I don't know, kind of who I was, even though I am a runner, but it became kind of like a catch-all. And it meant I didn't have to look at a whole bunch of other stuff. And I think that being able for, and I'm only telling you this because I know that a lot of the people in the Soul Sisters have heard me talk a lot, and they've heard me talk for the last 12 years, some of you who have been in the Soul Sisters for that long. And I want to say this just as a way of almost sharing that I no longer only consider myself the runner. I guess I'm a mom and I'm a runner, but it's like, as I've gotten farther away from my high performance career, I've become more in touch with why I actually love running. The high performance career was a way for me to do something. I feel so grateful for it. I had this incredible ability and a passion for running and competing, but now I realize that the running and why I stay in the running is because it is just such a wonderful addition to my life, and I love it probably now for almost all the same reasons that so many of the women that I talk to love it. It's not about I do like going for goals still. Now that I'm healthy, I'm looking forward to getting faster again. I'm looking forward to training. I'm looking forward to training hard, and that really awesome feeling you get from a good workout. I raced the Basin Bay on Sunday with the girls that I'm coaching. I have a girls group now, and a few of them are able and want to run the 5K. And I told them I was going to run the race as well, and then I would find them and I would run with them as well after I did my race. But I realized later in the day on Sunday that I felt like, wow, I'm back with my people. And I didn't realize that it's not just the race scene that I missed and the effort, but it's like I had actually really missed being in that race, not the race environment, but I missed being within the run community. And while I was having an awesome time training this little puppy, I also really got this huge sense on Sunday that, wow, I really appreciate these people. And they're not all high performance runners. They're not all the professionals that I used to race with. They are people that share a love of running, and they share a love of going to events too. And I'm going to tie this up by going back to Tracy's sort of introduction. And I've always encouraged people to do events. So to train and at least once go and try an event. And usually once people do one race, they want to sign up for a whole bunch more because they do realize how fun it is. But I've always encouraged people to sign up and to go to an event, so a race or a fun run. Some of the events would be triathlon and some of the other coaching environments that I do. But I encourage people to do that because I think that events lift you. I think that when you go to a race and you're around 300, 10,000, 20,000, or 70,000 if you ever make it to New York City, other people, the sheer energy of being there, it's kind of like the running equivalent of going to a concert of your favorite performer. You know, when you're in the crowd and suddenly you realize that, you know, everybody around you is completely engaged in watching this performer. And when you go to a running event, you realize that everybody is completely engaged at being at the event, but you're the performer. Every single person there is their own performer. And I think it's that feeling of going and testing yourself, challenging yourself, allowing yourself to be there, that makes that just gives you this extra kind of like oomph or joy, if you want to call it, that makes running, that just makes running like so much more meaningful. So I guess that's a little bit of the path of where I am right now, and why I continue to want to, not just to run, but why I continue to want to coach people. And I was going to finish with this short story because it's so awesome. I'm coaching this new clinic right now, and there's one woman who has lots of questions, and I love it. There's always somebody that has lots of questions, and she told me today that she had a very difficult pregnancy about 6 years ago, very, very difficult. And it took her out of sport, fitness, health management for a good 3 years of her life. And one day, and she had to use, after her child was born, she had to use a sleeping medication just once in a while so that she could actually rest. And one day somebody gave her sleeping medication, but they made a mistake and they gave her Ritalin. I know. And so she took this tiny little half pill, and instead of falling asleep, she ended up dancing all night. And then she was still awake at 5 a.m. So for the first time in 6 years, she put on her iPod and she went for a run. She had no fitness whatsoever, but she went for a run. And later that day, they figured out the mistake that somebody had made. Luckily, it wasn't lethal. But that started her running like that. It was bizarre. She said she went for this run, and then from then on, she has reincorporated running back into her life. And she had forgotten, not even forgotten, she just didn't think it was accessible to her. It's a strange little twist of fate, but it made me laugh. And she's now still running, and she's just getting so much out of this group of being able to run and challenge herself with other people.
Thanks for sharing that, Lucy, because I think that's such I see it a lot at Soul Sisters. I've experienced a husband who has not been able to run, and he's a marathon runner for 18 months. And it is, it's heartbreaking, right? It's heartbreaking. There's so many emotions that I think you go through. It's almost kind of like the grief cycle.
It totally is.
Frustrated, sad, you're embracing, you're accepting, all of these different emotions. What would you think, like, you had the puppy that was a great distraction and obviously kept you walking and moving.
Yes.
What was the thing that you were able to like sort of trust that it was all going to be okay? Because I think that's something that sometimes can get lost, is like this trust of, is it going to be okay? Am I ever going to be able to do or even find something else if I can't maybe walk or run in the same way that I've known before?
Yeah, I totally get that. And obviously there are some people who have severe injuries and they are faced with probably not being able to run. Part of it for me is that this was a big injury for me. I have been injured a lot in my life, and eventually you get over it. And then you're back, and 2 months out 2 months later, you're like, you almost forget that you were ever injured. And so I guess I have a little bit of that subconscious memory of knowing that I will eventually get better. This one was tough because it was so long. Walking definitely a dog helps. I think if you like dogs help no matter what. Dogs are just dogs. They just help with everything. But and then I started my girls group. So it almost like it opened up a little crack of energy for me. And I started my girls group because I knew that even though I couldn't train, I could run 10 minutes at a time, or I could walk with these girls. And then from then I created another group. And these were just 2 passion projects that I had been having in the back of my mind for a long time. So I know for sure that the injury was a bit of a catalyst for me to maybe start something else on the side. And I have a really, really good friend that I've trained with for 16 years. And y'all need a friend like this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I would say I'd be out walking with him and I'd say, I think I'm just going to quit running. And he'd just look at me and he goes, oh, come on. Like you need that one person that just says, come on, you're going to be fine. You're going to get better. And don't ever say that because you love running, and my sister is the same way. She just is a straight shooter and we can laugh when I'm being dramatic. And then the third piece of the puzzle for me is help. So I had a massage therapist, Marcus, who's at Saanich Commonwealth Place, and I had help from Jamie Grimes at Synergy, and to tell the truth, it wasn't just what those guys did. Like, it wasn't just the manipulation and Jamie's therapy was actually very painful. It wasn't really that so much as that every week I would show up with those guys and they would treat me like I'm going to get better. It was never, oh, here she comes again, the injured one. It was, what can we do now to get you better? Like, there was this ongoing sense of belief that they were going to help me, that it was worthwhile helping me, that it doesn't matter that I'm 49 and I'm not competing full time anymore. It was still important to them that I got better. And I wish for everybody that they can find a healthcare provider that has that, and we have a city full of amazing people. I just listed 2 that have worked for me. You can talk to any athlete and they will tell you who their go-to guy is or their go-to woman, whether it's massage, chiro, physio, there's anyway. So there was definitely, I wrote many, many times in my journal, I am so grateful to Marcus. I am so grateful to Jamie for just being there for me every week. But I can't say enough how talking yourself down, talking yourself out of the mindset that you don't deserve to be happy just because you're injured, like that is huge. Mm-hmm. You still are human and you still deserve to be happy and you still have a life, and there's all kinds of other things you can be grateful for, all the while accepting that, this sucks. Like, it's you just have to, it sucks. It's not going to go anywhere, but it's just there. It's kind of like, the Dalai Lama, he would be very, very present about it. He goes, yeah, it sucks. But it's here,
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember when Pete was going through all of the, going for the MRIs and going to meet the different surgeons for his knee, and his surgeon basically said, and I tell so many people this because I think it's brilliant. His surgeon said to him, look, like, I know your goal is to get back to running marathons again. My goal is to keep you moving for life. And I thought that's such a brilliant message, because we can get stuck on this, on a goal, on an event, on a race, on the fact that we're maybe not coming back to the same place that we were at before we got injured, all of those things. Yes. But really, our goal is to be able so that we can move for life, and whatever that's going to look like, we want to use our bodies. And
it's so true. And for me, that's why sometimes Marcus would say, Lucy, you just got to run, just go out and run. And I'd be really patient and really scared. And because I was actually not presenting like a very normal high performance athlete that's really impatient and I got to get out there now. because, and I guess in a way it's a gift. I kind of had that. I had that part of my career. Now I want to be able to run and move and be agile and hike when I'm 80. And I was very, very careful and cautious about coming back from this injury, because I'd love to run. I had all these, like I'm turning 50 this year. I had all these like goals that I was going to smash all these records, and then I'm like, no, like this is more important. Like I want to just have a healthy body so I can be active. That's a good that you brought that up, because it's a very big part of who I am now, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So I open it up for questions. Does anybody have any questions for Lucy at this point? Oh, I'll try and undo videos here too, but it takes me a minute. Anybody? I'm trying to get you guys off of video here, but I don't think it's letting me for some reason. Hold on.
People can use the message if they're having trouble.
Yeah, there's the chat box too. If anybody wants to ask Lucy a question, this is your chance. So Julie's question is, Lucy, do you think that people have expectations of you today? Well, that's a great question.
Oh, of me personally. I don't think so. I feel like I dealt with that issue, I think, as I was in the first 3 to 4 years of sort of starting my retirement. As everybody knows, I never actually retired. There was never one day I said, I'm going to retire now. And in fact, somebody introduced me the other day as somewhat retired. Yes, I'm somewhat retired. And so I did deal a little bit with feeling like I had to be good again, or I had to do things. But I have to say that the community that I seem to be surrounded in, I feel so accepted for my path and what I like. When I showed up at the race on Sunday, nobody said, "Hey, where have you been?" Like everybody's busy. Everybody's got their own lives. They're all concerned. But at the same time, I think that if as a human being, if you present yourself as sort of authentically as you can, or as honestly as you can, then people just sort of take that at face value as well. So the only expectations I feel that people have is that I'll show up with a smile. And I think for most people, our expectations and the pressure we put on ourselves is usually like 1,000 times more than anything. Like it's that we perceive, really, honestly.
So true. It's so true. Does anybody else have any other questions for Lucy?
Or did that answer your question?
Oh yeah, did that answer it, Julie?
Yes.
Okay.
Does it help, Julie, on our decision to do Kusum Climb?
Yes, we're going to do it.
What do
We have to.
Julie's trying to convince me to do Kusum Climb this year, which would be
okay.
a big challenge. And yes, there's lots of gremlins and little voices in my head, but I think Julie keeps saying, let's just do it. Let's just get up there and do it and see what happens.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well,
I agree. Yeah. What's the worst thing that's gonna happen? Like, honestly.
Exactly. Like, that's what I thought. Like, it takes us a long time. I mean, up and over a mountain and back down.
Yeah. It sounds awesome. Can I come?
You can come, Lucy.
June 24th.
It's on the 24th of March?
June.
No, of June. Okay, so a while. Yeah.
You've got lots of time to train.
That's right. And I just think of those kind of things as they are you obviously something like that you do want to train for, because otherwise that climb is going to feel really bad. Yeah. But it's also like you start that day, going almost minute by minute. You have to know what the general outlook of that whole time frame is going to be. But the best way to approach it is just like go either minute by minute or kilometer by kilometer or bit by bit, right? So that you are enjoying every step of the way, like just making it, because what does it really matter in the big ranges things, right? Like it's just you doing something right at that moment. And that to me is like just giving yourself permission to do that, to me is a huge gift.
I think the important point is we're not going to win. Like we're not crazy, we're not going to run up the entire mountain. So I think it's just something different. It's challenging. There's a big run at the end. So, and there's a big climb at the beginning.
I don't know. Like, it's so funny. Like, I just think, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah. Why not challenge yourself? Something different,
Yeah, and if it looks at all fun, like, I don't want to sound cliche, but if it looks like life's too short, right? Like if it looks like something fun, and if the only thing in the way is some negative self-talk or some anxiety, then there you go. There's your challenge right there, that you have to do it.
Let's book a place, Tracy.
And then making the time for it, carving that time out of your life with children and work and other responsibilities is, that's also part of the reward. It's like anything that you want to do that's important and great, there's probably going to be some effort involved, and that it's in the making of the effort that it becomes so rewarding, right? And life is handed to us way too much now with our iPhones and our information and our technology, and there's nothing can beat just that the self-empowerment of making something happen and then going and doing it.
So now I want to go tomorrow. I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look this up now.
Oh, it's hard. We've read about it. We know some people who've done it.
Yeah,
it is hard, but I think that's the whole point. It's a challenge. It's fun. Like, I'm gonna do it with someone. Like Tracy and I do long runs together. It's that whole group, right? Like you're both going out having a good time, and for me, fun, and for those of us that run, fun is different than other people's fun, right?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I call it fun. Tracy might be like, I'm not sure it's fun.
Yeah. I get that a lot in my running groups. They're like, how come the people are just like, how can you be so passionate about running? But then after like the third workout, they're like, I just like showing up. Somebody's got to provide the enthusiasm.
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, we could go on all night, I think, having good conversation. If anybody if there's no other questions, I know Lucy's got a full life with kids and dogs and probably, who knows, maybe even a run later on. You never know.
I already ran a couple times today. But sorry, that was funny. I had to leave for the dog. The dog was barking at his empty water dish.
Dogs. You taught the dog well about hydration then, Lucy. That's good.
Yeah. I can run with him though. He's a good little dog.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I love listening to you speak. It's always just such a pleasure to have you a part of Soul Sisters. I know Mina's probably got you booked at some point over the clinic session over the next few weeks. So hopefully we'll see you again soon in person, and that will be great. And maybe you'll get out for a walk or a run with one of the groups as well. So thank you so much. Loved it. It was awesome. Have a great night, everybody. And Friday morning, we are meeting at Eagle Creek Starbucks for maybe a run and walk, and then a little Starbucks treat afterwards. It's always fun. And we'll send out homework for the weekend. All right. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye. Good night, everybody. Bye.